Good evening to you, friends. Greg and Liz here with you. We're going to start with the WAFB I-Team exclusive. We know that sometimes emotions can get the best of us, but this is going way too far.
Yeah, 2 adults are in jail tonight after police say a parent punched a school principal this week in Plaquemine.
What are you doing? Holy crap. This is a story that is absolutely ridiculous and absurd of a mother being angry that a principal decided to tell her to keep her kids off of a basketball court during a basketball game where her children could get hurt, who decided to assault the principal, attack her viciously, send her to the hospital, because how dare you talk to me about my kids like that? Absolute madness from top to bottom, but unfortunately, this is the story that we got to talk about today. But before we do, let me remind you that my friend Devin Tracy, his parents recently lost their home during the California wildfires. He has a GoFundMe to raise money for them. If you can donate, please do. If you can't or don't want to, it's totally fine, no pressure. I'm just trying to help my friend.
Well, good evening, Liz and Greg. We're told the principal made a comment to the parent about the woman's children after they kept walking onto the basketball court during a game. Police say the mom was not having it. What happened next sent the principal to the hospital with a busted lip and a head injury.
So a couple of things I want to make 100% clear about this particular story because I think they are incredibly important. First and foremost, the reporter right here, his name is Chris Nakamoto. I think Nakamoto is actually a cool last name. Now, I'm going to move on from that, but I needed to make a note of that before moving into this particular story. So what we have here is a confluence of factors that honestly we see all too common in the United States of America, which is parents deciding that nobody's going to say anything to them about their kids when they're completely mismanaging and not taking care of their children. There was nothing wrong at all whatsoever with this principal trying to keep these kids off the basketball court because these kids could have got injured if they were run into by the players. It was causing a stoppage in the game, but a parent was very upset that she dared say anything to them and decided to attack this principal based on, again, the principal looking out for her children more than she was, which is just patently absurd and ridiculous. But considering the way that we view parents or parents view their kids nowadays versus back in the day, the idea of somebody else correcting their bad parenting is so offensive that they have to escalate to violence.
If pictures are worth 1,000 words, then what surveillance video records is invaluable. Tonight, this video of a principal getting slapped to the ground is turning heads in the city of Plaquemine.
Now look, I had to cut the video right there because it is a very aggressive punch that is honestly misdescribed as a slap in the face against the principal, and YouTube's terms of service are what they are when it comes to violence, and I get dinged incredibly easy by showing you anything. But I also want to take note of the fact that because this incident involves a black woman attacking a white woman, the principal being a white woman in this particular instance, this will not be international news in the way it would be if this were a white parent attacking a black principal, which, by the way, I guess is a good thing, because the phenomenon that I'm talking about that I think is the driving force behind this is the idea that parents don't want to be told anything related to their children, and they lash out in these completely wildly inappropriate ways whenever they're confronted with the consequences or with somebody telling them that they're not doing their job as the parent. So I don't think there is a racial motivation behind this. I guess it is possible, but again, had the races been reversed in this story, no matter what was going on, no matter what was the reason behind the mother's reaction, you would hear all these people pinning this down to evil white racism. So that's something to keep in your mind in terms of perspective right here, how this would be covered if the races were reversed. But obviously, this is trash people behavior, trash human behavior. And when you look at the footage of the kids running on the court, the principal was definitely 100% in the right to try to get them off the court.
On Monday, the principal at Iberville Elementary was watching a basketball game when police say she noticed young children walking onto the court while the game was being played. You could see the principal getting up so the little kids didn't get hurt. At least 2 times she pulls the kids back while the game is in play. At some point, Plaquemine Police Chief Stephen Angolio says words were exchanged.
I mean, again, I have to cut before the punch is actually thrown due to YouTube's terms of service, but think about how ridiculous and disgusting this is, that this woman is holding another kid while striking out against this principal. But of course, it gets worse because one of her trash human friends decides to jump in on the fray, and this is why in this particular story, we actually have 2 women being arrested for an assault on a principal who, again, was just trying to protect one of the women's kids from being injured during the basketball game while also trying to keep the basketball game flowing because they would have to engage in all these different stoppages due to the fact that her children were misbehaving. Again, what a ridiculous reason to be assaulted, but of course, this is the United States of America. Some people just behave horribly and poorly, and obviously we're just supposed to accept that this is reality, even though it doesn't need to be, even though there should be devastating consequences for this. And I'm happy, by the way, that this woman and her friend were arrested for this crime.
And the mom was having none of it.
The principal sitting in a chair, the ladies walking by with 3 kids in tow and one of her friends. And the principal asked her, hey, keep your kids off the basketball court, disrupts the whole game. She obviously took offense with that, and you see her move in on the teacher puts her hand up to kind of keep her off, and she just punched her, knocked her out of the chair.
Surveillance footage in the school's gym obtained by the WAFB team shows the parent hit the principal. She's knocked to the ground.
I mean, seriously, how ghetto is this footage right here? You have her holding one baby in the hand. You have her hand on the hand of the other child. By the way, if she secured her children like this, she would not be in this conflict in the first place. And she's barking in this woman's face, ends up running up on her, and then eventually decides to slug this woman who is significantly older than her, causing her a serious injury because she hit the ground. This is wildly inappropriate, completely unacceptable. There is no way, shape, or form the principal said anything other than justifiable criticisms to her in this moment, but she didn't want to hear it. She felt like she was above it. So of course, in this particular case, what do we see? We see obviously somebody getting injured for doing the right thing because this woman felt entitled. Again, don't ever criticize me and my parenting, even though my parenting is sufficiently lacking. And I don't care if this woman is mad. I don't care if she's upset. I don't care if she wants to hit me in the face too. You're a terrible mother. You're a terrible person. You should honestly have it examined on whether or not you should have custody of those kids, because you are teaching them that violence is an appropriate response to misbehavior of those children, and that is something that they are likely to take out into the world with them. Again, embarrassing in every possible way.
Tonight, Alicia Parker, the mom seen hitting the principal, is facing felony charges: battery on a school teacher, resisting officers, and disturbing the peace. Another woman who also got involved is also facing charges. Jamisha Godshaw, charged with assault on a school teacher, disturbing the peace, battery of a school teacher, and threatening a public official.
Her cohort was kind of egging it on and made some threats and was cussing people out too.
So I've seen people mention that this particular school district, this particular town, is in and around the city of Baton Rouge. Now, we've actually talked about how bad the Baton Rouge schools are on this channel a couple of different times, but you have a lot of problems going down in your schools when you have a specific charge in your state law that is battery against a school teacher, and that is a felony. Obviously, there's a lot of violence going down in these particular schools, and this is just ridiculous and absurd that these two women both participated in that. And of course, they resisted arrest because they felt so entitled. And again, how embarrassing is that? You take your kids to a game. Your kids are acting up. They're running on the court. It's supposed to be a community event. Somebody tells you, hey, can you keep your kids off the court? And all of a sudden, you react with violence. And then your trash friend ends up jumping into the fray as well, also assaults a school teacher. And we're supposed to just accept that that is a normal, rational response when you think about the consequences of this and you realize how crazy it actually is. This means that they had to take custody of those children because the people that were watching those children had to be arrested due to the fact that they couldn't control their behavior. And again, both of them look absolutely like trash individuals. It is unsurprising to see them participate in this. And again, it is rooted in that phenomenon that you are not ever to be told that you're parenting poorly, even though you're obviously parenting poorly.
After the principal was knocked to the ground, you can see she grabs a napkin to wipe her face. Police say she had a busted lip and a head injury.
She was taken to the hospital. Her CAT scans and stuff like that had to be done, and she's okay now. But it was a pretty brutal attack.
With Parker and Godshaw now facing felony charges over the melee, law enforcement in Iberville Parish says this behavior won't be tolerated, especially at a child's basketball game.
You get in a fight at a public event, you're going to jail. Nobody wants to come out and go to 4th of July's and Mardi Gras parades and ball games and see that.
So you see the woman right there, bleeding lip, gets a napkin in order to do that. You see all these different kids who had to witness this absolute chaos go down during the course of their basketball game. It's a disaster, but there is good news that follows this up, and I do want to play it for you, although I do want to take note of the fact that the mugshots shown by the local news couldn't be in lower resolution if they tried.
You get in a fight at a public event, you're going to jail. Nobody wants to come out and go to 4th of July's and Mardi Gras parades and ball games and see that. And I don't blame them. You know, before it was like escort them out, write them a summons or whatever. You get in a fight, start any kind of fistic ruckus at a public event in Plaquemine, you're going to jail.
Look, that is the way that it should be. You cannot allow this behavior to be tolerated. This woman needs to suffer consequences for this, and I'm not saying it needs to be years in prison or anything of the sort, but you need some kind of strong deterrence in order to prevent people from doing this, because if you allow this blatant violation of societal norms to go unchecked, you are going to get many more violations, because it couldn't be more clear than this. We have the surveillance video. We have her kids acting up and running across the court. We have all these different various things that show us that this woman and her children were completely out of line in this particular situation. So if you give her a free pass, if you give her a slap on the wrist, if you give her other friend who shouldn't even have the emotion of, oh, that's my child, that's my innocent little baby who's just trying to run on the basketball court, if that person gets a pass as well, then you end up in a disastrous scenario. You end up catering to the criminals, and as we've seen in other places across the country, when you start catering to the criminal, the lawlessness just spirals out of control.
Parker is being held on a $100,000 bond. We're told Godshaw had bench warrants for other issues, too. The Iberville Parish Superintendent told me today this behavior will not be tolerated, and the two individuals mentioned in this report have been banned from all Iberville Parish schools.
So yeah, $100,000 bond for somebody who could get this violent this quickly, who doesn't know how to control her kids, and attacks people for taking note of the fact that she has no control of her kids, seems to make a lot of sense to me. And in addition to that, her friend, being the ghetto trash that she was, had a bunch of different other open warrants, so we're likely dealing with repeat offenders, at least for the other person. So yeah, obviously this is a terrible story. Again, I will highlight the fact that had the races been reversed, had this been a white mother that was angry over a black principal telling her to keep her kids off the court and she reacted with violence, this would be international news. It would be covered nonstop. We would hear about the Karenicity from all these different various race hustlers. And again, she would be condemned from now until the end of time based on the evil white supremacy out there in the ether. But because of the fact that the races are what they are, this is considered a local news story, but I think it deserves to be elevated because it is very indicative across all racial lines, honestly, of the way that parents view anybody telling them anything wrong with their parenting, and that's something that's got to change. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like the video, show while leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the disaster in Louisiana. Till next time.